Luuk Herssen, the son of the Grand Architect, is finally available in the second half of version 3.1, equipped with golden weapons, aerial maneuvers, and some of the most dynamic gameplay available for a main DPS. His kit, however, does come with some small restrictions, but he easily makes up for them by being one of the best free-to-play units ever released that only has room to grow with the rest of the Lynae region. As a Spectro, basic attack damage focused unit with a massive amount of burst damage and synergies with Toon Strain, he'll work best with units like Lynae, Mornye, and Sanhua, but still has the potential to shine in much more budget-friendly teams. With that, welcome to our full-scope comprehensive guide to Luuk, the newest addition to Wuthering Waves, and I'm here to break down everything when it comes to how he works, what his best equipment will be, and the steps you need to take across his team building and rotations to make the most out of his insane damage potential. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Luuk, with his baseline kit, focuses on the repeated use of his enhanced resonance skill to stack up a unique buff that greatly multiplies the damage of his resonance liberation. However, these enhanced skills are locked behind the use of his basic attacks, so that's where we'll begin. Luuk's default basic attacks consist of a 4-hit attack chain, with the third hit lingering on the field to damage enemies. This blade disappears whenever Luuk uses another damaging skill or leaves the field. His heavy attack consumes stamina and jumps him into the air. His mid-air attack consists of a 4-hit attack chain, with the 4th hit being a plunge that costs stamina. Luuk can input a jump or a basic attack for stages 2 and 3, using resection with a jump or dissection with a normal attack. Resection will also inflict Toon Strain shifting on the target for 25 seconds and reduce damage taken by 15% for 1 second. This attack chain will not be reset while in the air. Luuk can also hold a normal attack in the air to just immediately plunge. Luuk's dodge counter will immediately advance him to the 3rd hit of his basic attack, and while in the air, he'll teleport to his target and deal damage. Luuk's default resonance skill functions similarly to his air dodge, instantly teleporting him to the enemy and dealing damage. This attack also inflicts Toon Strain shifting and has 2 charges. After the use of his 4th ground basic or either of his 3rd air basics, Luuk replaces his skill with Oriole of Execution, which deals basic attack damage and inflicts Toon Strain shifting. This attack has 3 forms that advance to the next stage after each use, and switching to another resonator resets the chain. The first attack, Ring, deals damage and resets his mid-air attack to the first stage. His next basic attack will become Golden Impale, which instantly teleports him to his target and deals basic attack damage. The second attack, Breach, dashes to the target, resets his air attack, and hurls out an Ichor Blade, which deals very low damage. His next normal attack will also become Golden Impale. The third attack, Glare, generates a massive Ichor deposit on the ground that automatically detonates after 5 seconds. Luuk can follow up with a normal attack in midair to use Gavel of the Earthshaker, which slams down, detonates the Ichor deposit, and recovers all of his stamina. This ability becomes unavailable if Luuk uses his Liberation or he switches off field. Each time Oriole of Execution is used, Luuk gains a stack of end notes on the end game, which has a cap of 3 and increases the damage multiplier of his Liberation by 25% per stack. Using Luuk's Liberation, rewritten in Winter, or switching him off field removes all stacks. Luuk's Liberation simply deals a burst of basic attack damage and can be used in the air. That's pretty much it. Luuk's Forte Circuit, on the other hand, simply enhances his other abilities. His unique resource is called Ichor Flow, which has a cap of 300, which is generated through the use of all of his attacks aside from his Liberation. His intro skill restores 100, and casting it places Luuk in the air and allows him to immediately follow up with a second hit of his air attack. While Luuk is in the team, all other resonators gain a special buff called Golden Rule, and when a resonator with this buff outro skills to Luuk, the buff is removed from all units and Luuk is granted 200 Ichor Flow and 12 Concerto Energy. This effect has a 24-second cooldown. With full Ichor Flow, Luuk enters the Aureate Judge state, which removes his ability to generate Ichor Flow and buffs the damage multipliers of Oriole of Execution, Gavel of the Earthshaker, and his Ichor deposit by 110%. 100 points are consumed each time Oriole of Execution is cast, and the state ends when his Ichor Flow depletes. Luuk also gains a special buff called Dawnlit Keep whenever he stays out of combat for 4 seconds or he uses an intro skill. This has a cap of 1, and when he takes damage, he consumes a stack to reduce the damage taken by 60% and gains interruption immunity for a whole second. Luuk also gains a unique air dodge that hurls out an Ichor Blade and allows him to stay airborne, farming aura. He can also trigger this when launched into the air and recover up to 3 times per jump. The last component of Luuk's baseline kit is his ability to respond to Toon effects. Luuk only has a response to Toon Strain and increases his damage dealt to interfered targets based on the number of stacks and his Toon Break boost. He also increases the max stacks of Toon Strain on the team by 1. When you factor in all of Luuk's abilities, resources, and interactions with each other, he has a devilishly simple playstyle that revolves around intro scaling in with a full Ichor Flow, mid-air attacking 3 times, and following up with his enhanced skill 3 times to generate all end notes on the end game and trigger Gavel of the Earthshaker before using his Liberation to nuke the enemy and then outro to another teammate, dealing another massive burst of damage to the target. When it comes to Luuk's inherent skills, the first grants Luuk the ability to gain perpetuating daytime stacks whenever he defeats an enemy with Tune Strain interfered, equal to the number of stacks of strain. When a resonator on the team Tune breaks an enemy affected by Tune Strain shifting, Luuk loses all stacks of perpetuating daytime and inflicts those stacks on the enemy, up to their max cap. This buff has a max stack limit of 2. His second inherent skill amplifies his damage to Tune Strain interfered targets by 5% for every 10 points of Tune Break boost he has, up to 30%. Additionally, when any resonator in the team inflicts Tune Strain shifting or deals Tune Break damage, Luuk gains 25% attack for 20 seconds. This might be the best inherent skill in the game if I'm going to be honest. Overall, Luuk is a unit that has a unique blend of mobility, sustained damage, and burst damage all in one aerial package that heavily benefits from interacting with the Tune Break system, specifically Tune Strain, and has fantastic results when working with units that can increase his Tune Break boost like Lynae, who can also increase the stack limit of interfered targets alongside Mornye, making them his ideal partners. However, Luuk still performs perfectly fine with more free-to-play centric units like Sanhua and Shorekeeper. It's also important to keep in mind that Luuk's ideal sub DPS, a unit that increases Tune Break boost while also greatly buffing basic attacks on outro, isn't in the game yet, so we'll see where his ceiling is as time goes on. As of now, he's easily the most complete Spectro DPS in the game with a very low reliance on premium options to excel, unlike Zani or Jinsei. However, do keep in mind that Luuk is one of the most mechanically difficult units to pilot in the game, so make sure you practice. When it comes to actually building Luuk, starting off with the skill priority, it's safe to say that you want to max out every skill on this guy aside from his intro skill, which can be kept at a lower level. This is because each skill greatly contributes to his overall damage. Moving on to his weapons, there's only 2 real options that any person should consider, and the great news is that one of them is completely free to play. Here's what the calculations are looking like, credits to Pridewind. Let's start off with his signature, Daybreaker Spine. This weapon provides a standard base attack and crit rate, 12% attack boost, and a small 20% buff to Spectro damage and a 20% basic attack damage amp whenever Tune Strain is inflicted. Luuk can maintain full uptime on every part of this ability, making it his ideal choice. However, there's another easily accessible option, which is Pulsation Bracer, the new standard 5-star gauntlet. This weapon has identical base stats to Luuk's signature, the same 12% attack boost, but instead a ramping basic attack damage buff when the wielder hits an enemy with Tune Strain inflicted. Luuk can also maintain full uptime on this buff, and its incredible stats make it his second best option. Seriously, it's better than every other signature gauntlet and should be your go-to choice, as you can easily pull it on the standard weapon banner. There's pretty much no reason at all to consider any other options with the ease that you can guarantee Pulsation Bracer, so just go for that and save the headache if you're skipping his signature. Now let's talk about Luuk's echoes. Rite of Gilded Revelation is his best in slot. No real conversation to have here. The 5-piece effect grants spectral damage and a ramping spectral damage buff as basic attacks are used, with an additional bonus to basic attack damage on the Liberation cast. However, if you're desperate for a quick set to use in a pinch, you can try out Celestial Light. For Echo main stats, you'll want a crit 4 cost, 2 spectral damage 3 costs, and 2 attack 1 costs. For substats, you'll want to prioritize crit rate, damage, ER up to 120%, percentage attack, and basic attack damage rolls. All other damage rolls won't be that great on Luuk, so don't go searching for them. The last area of investment when it comes to Luuk involves your wallet or a lot of saved astrite, his sequence nodes, and credits to Pridewind for providing the calculations. His first node grants him a 150% mid-air attack damage bonus and increases the stack of Dawnlit Keep, his interruption immunity and damage resistance on hit by 1, and while in the Orient Judge state, his enhanced skill will generate 1 stack of Dawnlit Keep. His second node grants a 60% damage multiplier on his Liberation that stacks with end notes on the endgame, and doubles the damage amplification of his second inherent skill. The third node increases the damage multipliers in his Orient Judge state by an additional 136% and grants him up to 4 stacks of perpetuating daytime at max. And his fourth node grants a 20% damage buff to all resonators in the team when Tune Break damage is dealt, while his fifth gives his intro and outro skill an 80% damage bonus, and he gains a multiplier of 50% on his regular resonance skill and another charge with a 2-second reduced cooldown. And his sixth node, the big one, causes enemies that have taken Tune Break damage to take 30% more damage from Oriole of Execution, his Sacred Deposit, and Gavel of the Earthshaker. And notes on the endgame also grants his Liberation a 40% additional damage bonus for each stack, and whenever he deals damage to targets with Tune Strain interfered, the target stack count is increased by 2 with no upper limit. This has potential to be the strongest S6 in the game if you can get enough stacks. Now that we covered Luuk's build, let's get into some of his teams in optimal rotations. Given his focus on basic attacks and toon strain, he'll pair best with toon-oriented teams featuring Mornye and Lynae, or more free-to-play centric lineups featuring Sanhua, and they both perform well. Luuk's best team on release will feature Mornye as the support and Lynae as the sub DPS on toon strain mode. You'll basic attack 3 times on Mornye, use her heavy attack, then basic attack 3 more times and use her skill. Then you'll enhanced heavy, liberation, echo skill, then outro to Lynae, who will use her resonance skill, liberation, and then charge her heavy attack before echo skilling, jumping 3 times, and then plunging with visual impact. You'll then outro to Luuk, who will jump to use resection twice and then enhance resonance skill. Then you'll use golden impale while weaving in a dodge cancel before using his first midair basic, then 2 jump attacks, and then his second enhanced resonance skill. You'll then dodge cancel golden impale again and perform the same midair combo before using his third enhanced skill. You'll then basic to use Gavel of the Earthshaker and then use Luuk's Liberation and then his Echo skill to end the rotation. When outroing to Mornye, she'll re-enter the field in her hovering state, letting you pick up her rotation from there. Make sure to toon break as soon as possible to trigger Luuk's massive damage buffs on his inherent skill. On the other hand, for a more free-to-play friendly lineup, you can substitute Mornye and Lynae for Shorekeeper and Sanhua. You'll start off on Shorekeeper, perform 3 basic attacks, and then use your resonance skill, basic attack again, and dodge cancel into a heavy attack. Then you'll liberation and basic attack and echo skill until Concerto is filled, and outro to Sanhua, who will then skill, liberation, and then use her detonation heavy attack, echo skill, and then outro to Luuk, who will perform the same rotation in the previous team. To spice up this team's rotation, you can opt to swap to Sanhua in the middle of Shorekeeper's rotation, like during the heavy attack to skill, liberation, and detonation heavy attack on Sanhua, and then swap back to Shorekeeper during the animation and save additional time. However, this tech isn't as useful with Luuk, as Golden Rule's 24-second cooldown limits how fast you can speed up your team's rotation, but it's a helpful trick to know. When it comes to quick swap or other advanced gameplay techs, Luuk isn't a great candidate. This is due to the fact that his Oriole of Execution and endnotes on the endgame will reset when he's swapped off field, making his quick swapping isolated to very small parts of his rotation unless you're willing to lose his massive damage buffs. Overall, Luuk is a fantastic addition to the Wuthering Waves roster that fills the unique niche of a Spectro basic attacker while also providing some of the highest performance possible on a budget for many free-to-play players. It's incredibly easy to get him up and running with almost no resource expenditure, but you can choose to optimize his premium teams by investing in units like Mornye and Lynae. But do keep in mind that his optimal sub DPS still hasn't been released yet, and he only has more room to grow. His lack of reliance on premium units to get fantastic baseline results make him stand out among other Spectro DPSs, and he's a solid addition to the roster that gets a lot done with incredible sequence nodes to match. Is he a must-pull? Potentially, if you're a newer player or you skip past Spectro DPSs, but for many, he'll simply be a fun unit that spices up gameplay in ways we've never seen before. Do keep in mind, however, that he's probably the hardest unit in the game to actually play, but he's very fun. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.